Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with an update for Live Twins. Finally had some time to play this deck, and we're going to start off with a going first game against Eldlich that'll actually end up demonstrating the main combo line pretty well if you open Leela or Kisakeel. We're going to start by normal summoning Leela, special summoning Kisakeel from deck. We're then going to link off the Kisakeel in order to summon Evil Twin Kisakeel Deal, the new Link 1 monster from our extra deck. We can use that to send the new Leela Suite from our deck to the graveyard, which we can then special summon via its own effect. Now, because Kisakeel Deal is a light fiend, we can link her off for the Fiendsmith's Requiem, and of course, this is how we're going to bridge into the Fiendsmith line. We're going to Requiem summon Lacrima, dump Engraver, but before we do more Fiendsmith plays, first I'm going to make the Evil Twin Leela with the two Leela monsters on board. She's going to activate, reviving our Evil Twin Kisakeel Deal, and the two of those are going to get linked into the Unchained Soul Lord of Yama. This is going to add the Sharvara from deck to our hand, but we're just going to discard it, so that search really doesn't matter, and you're going to see in a later game just how little that search matters. Now we can take our two Link 2 Fiends and link them into a Bawaku. We're going to discard that Sharvara, and then what you summon here actually depends on what you started with, right? Since I started my combo with Live Twin Leela, and I had not yet activated Live Twin Kisakeel, that's what I'm going to revive with a Bawaku. But if you started with Live Twin Kisakeel, then you would want to revive the Leela instead. Again, whichever one you didn't activate is what you want to summon with a Bawaku. But after a Bawaku banishes herself, we don't control any other monsters, meaning our Live Twin that's revived gets the effect. Now we're going to link the two of them off into the Evil Twin Kisakeel. And now we're going to activate the Evil Twin Kisakeel effect in order to revive the Evil Twin Leela. And now we can take our two Link 2s and link them off into the Evil Twin Trouble Sunny. But Trouble Sunny won't be around for long. We're going to activate the Engraver effect, put back the Deal, and revive the Engraver. Now we're going to equip the Engraver with Requiem, and this is actually a crucial step. Alright, now at this point, we're going to activate the Trouble Sunny, and we're going to revive the Leela and the Kisakeel. I will say that at this stage in the combo line, not only does sequencing really matter, but also positioning. You want to make sure that you're putting your monsters in the same zones I am. Now we're going to activate Kisakeel as Chainlink 1 and Leela as Chainlink 2. But this does a lot more than just chain block our card draw. By using the Leela to destroy specifically the equipped Fiendsmith's Requiem, that way we don't lose out on any bodies, that'll actually trigger our Yama to activate in the graveyard, and that's how we're going to revive the Trouble Sunny. So very important step there to pop a card. We're then going to link off Leela plus Engraver into Fiendsmith's Sequence. Now Sequence effect is going to activate. We're actually going to summon the Fiendsmith Desiree by putting back all three. Now we're going to link the Sequence plus Evil Twin Kisakeel into the Nightmare Griffin. This is a Link 4 monster with a very powerful Floodgate style effect that says special summoned monsters on the field cannot activate their effects unless they are linked, meaning that a Link monster is pointing to them. Now, because we're pointing to Desiree and Trouble Sunny, those can be activated. Same with a Bawaku. That's also getting pointed to by the Trouble Sunny. So this is what our end board is going to consist of. We have the Desiree negate, we have the Bawaku destroy a card, we have the Trouble Sunny to revive Kisakeel and Leela to draw a card and destroy another card, and of course we have the Nightmare Griffin, which is locking our opponent's special summoned monsters out of their effects. Now, our opponent is going to be on Eldlich, which means, unfortunately, a lot of our board isn't going to be super effective against them, for another reason you're going to see here shortly. I'm going to use the Droll after their Pot of Extravagance. They're going to special summon the Eldlich, sending away the Conquistador to get rid of my Fiendsmith Sequence. That way they can go to battle phase and use the Evenly Matched to banish my board. Hugely devastating. And of course they use the Eldlich effect getting rid of Sequence. That way I couldn't use the Desiree to simply negate the Evenly Matched. I'm going to choose to keep the Trouble Sunny because that's going to represent the most amount of plays, not only during my opponent's turn here, but also then going into my next turn. So after they get Evenly me, we're going to activate Cursed Eldland. Don't want to destroy that. They're going to use the Eldlich, sending away the Set Sanguine in order to add to hand and then special summon. Keep in mind, an Eldlich summoned by its own effect can't be destroyed by card effects, so that's not going to be a way that we can out this thing. Setting 2, they're going to set Elixir of the Glorious Land. Now they're going to activate the Conquistador, setting the Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine. Now during their end phase, I'm going to want to activate the Trouble Sunny effect to revive Leela and Kisakeel. Not only getting an extra draw to hopefully find more plays, but also the Leela can destroy an opponent's card, and since my opponent just set these trap cards, they can't activate them. Now, this is where knowledge is super important, right? Because I know what these two face-down cards are, the Scarlet Sanguine and the Glorious, Eldlich card. This can threaten to bounce, which is like a little annoying, but not that big of a deal. The Scarlet Sanguine, I'm really not concerned about. That's just going to summon another Eldlich from deck. But these two face-down cards, I don't know what they are. So they could be Solemns, or they could be Floodgates, and I really want to deal with these as soon as possible. So we're going to use Leela to pop one of those cards, which ends up being the Golden Land Forever, the Omni-Negate Counter Trap card. Very glad I destroyed that during the end phase. And now we're going to draw for turn. We already have the secret password, so I'm not too concerned about not getting a top deck there. So here, I'm going to actually activate the Graveyard effect of Trouble Sunny. I can banish and then send the Leela from my field to the graveyard. Not only will that let me send an opponent's card from the field to the graveyard now, but I can also use Kisakeel Revive Leela to try to get another destruction, which I'm going to do right now. So my opponent's going to chain the Scarlet Sanguine, and as you can see, they're already pretty quickly running out of cards to play. I already know that this is just a bounce again, so I'm not really too concerned about that. So I'm going to end up using the Trouble Sunny effect here in just a moment on the other Eldlich, which cannot be destroyed by card effects. It can't be destroyed, but it can be sent. Now, the Conquistador popped the Leela, which means I don't get to destroy a card, but I can still revive the Leela suite with its effect. Elixir of the Glorious Land will bounce the Kisakeel, but I'm not really concerned about that, because I have follow-up plays, and my opponent acknowledging this is going to concede here. Alright, I think that's a very good example of not only how to turn one combo with live twins, but also us playing our board out, even in a scenario where we got hit with evenly and we were really unfavored. It was not difficult at all to still pilot the deck to a win. But let's see some more gameplay examples. There are some times where you just don't open any of your live twin cards, but you still might open some Fiendsmith plays. Here's an example of a game that's going to play out like that. As you can see, yep, we've only got the engravers. I do like this triple tack though. This is a game where I might end up using it to draw to try to find some evil/live twin plays. We're going to engraver for Tract to activate the Tract in order to add and then discard the Lurie. Of course, Fabled Lurie gets to activate here, special summoning, and then we're going to link it off into the Fiendsmith's Requiem. Basically, at this point, until my opponent makes a move, I'm just going to go into the Wave High King Caesar. And then my other plan, if they don't do anything, is to then normal summon Ash Blossom, to then link it with the sequence to make Little Knight. Little Knight plus Caesar is not the best in board, but it's definitely better than nothing. Yep, Lacrima is going to summon, not activating because we have the other engraver in hand, and they end up using the Ghost Bell against my Fiendsmith sequence. Now, up to this point, I was actually also thinking that I could use the Tract Graveyard effect to make my Fiendsmith's Lacrima, which could mean that I could summon the Desiree as well as Caesar, and then still have Little Knight. But since my sequence got negated by Ghost Spell, obviously I can only now summon one of the fusions. But that's fine, because I'm still going to just banish the Tract from my graveyard. Now I can fuse the sequence with the engraver in my hand, and that's how I'm going to make the Fiendsmith's Lacrima. Now we're going to go Lacrima effect in order to revive the engraver, and we're going to make Caesar. At this point, I can still use the Triple Tactics talent, and I kind of changed course. I know I talked about drawing to potentially find some plays, but at this point, I don't know. I think I'd rather just hand rip, because even though if I find like a live twin, it might not necessarily end up letting me combo out, if it's like Leela. So I went by that really quickly, but our opponent's hand, you might have missed it, was actually 2 copies of Diabellstar the Black Witch, as well as 2 copies of Deception of the Sinful Spoils. That's really, really unlucky for a triple tax hand rip, because it means essentially it doesn't matter what I hand rip. However, I do know that I should use the Maxi during the draw phase, because the Diabellstar Summon effect does not start a chain. However, unfortunately for me, they top decked Ash Blossom, which is also still kind of fine, and my opponent realizing that concedes, because like even if Max C didn't resolve, I still have Caesar versus Diabellstar and Deception. Like, what are they gonna do? Add Howard as Amina just for me to negate it, and then they can't battle over my monster? Yeah, no, that definitely, even though I was running low on resources, was still a game where I was very much favored. Let's take a look at this next duel. Okay, so this game is going to be against Dragon Maid, Dragon Link, with the new rocket support. And it's going to be another good example of us comboing on turn 1 with a little bit of a twist. So once again, we've opened the Leela. We have the Engraver as well. This hand is looking really, really good. I'm going to lead with normal summon Leela. My opponent's going to throw out a Fuelos, as well as a Max C. Normally, this would be very, very bad, but we did actually open Droll and Lockbird, and we're going to actually end up using that as a counter to our opponent's hand traps. We're going to fire off the Droll, which now means that neither player can add cards from deck to hand. This doesn't include us, of course, which means we can't search. However, as I'm about to demonstrate, you actually don't need to search at all in order to pull off the exact same combo line I showed you in the first game. That's right, this is a deck that can actually Droll and Lockbird itself, which is a very, very good strength to have, obviously for the reason that you just saw, right? It means that Droll is not just an effective hand trap against our opponent, but it's actually yet another card on top of cards like Call By and Crossout and Ash Blossom that we can use to counter Maxi and then combo. Now, here you're not able to search off of the Yama and add the Sharvara, but again, we just used Sharvara to discard off a Bawaku. We can still discard another card from our hand, and the combo line is exactly the same. We'll even discard the Engraver here, which is really good for us. Because we led with Leela, we revived Kisakeel, and now we can link summon into our evil twin Kisakeel. Now, the Droll, unfortunately, we do lose out on the Kisakeel draw during turn 1 as well, but again, that draw and the search for Sharvara are the only things that Droll stops you from doing with this combo line. And again, neither of those things are even close to essential. So, very, very strong combo line inherently, but also one that can play through its own Droll and Lockbird, meaning that games like this go from, you know, basically being auto losses to being able to full combo and then still, of course, set up your full end board. We do still want to use the Leela, of course, to pop our Requiem. That way we can use Yama in order to revive the Trouble Sunny. But like I mentioned, you don't get the draw off Kisakeel here. Not a big deal at all, though. We're still going to make the sequence with Engraver plus Leela. Now we can go sequence effect. We're going to fuse for the Desiree. And then after we summon this Desiree, we're of course going to add the Nightmare Phoenix to our end board by linking sequence plus the Kisakeel. Yeah, you keep seeing my opponent's Fua and Maxi coming up here and my Droll just countering each of them. And end phase, we get our Bawaku back. Alright, going into our opponent's turn, they're going to lead with Parlor Dragon Maid. They're going to send off the trap card and then go into a Striker Dragon. Now, it's important to note that the Nightmare Griffin negates special summoned monsters unless they're linked. And here, in this scenario, my Trouble Sunny is actually pointing to my opponent's extra monster zone. For that reason, you could maybe try to consider adjusting these, but the problem is you can't really, right? Because if you revive Trouble Sunny over here, there's nothing pointing to it and it can't activate. And if you put it over here, again, nothing pointing to it, it won't be able to activate. The Bawaku could come back in this zone, I think, actually. I'm trying to remember if that placement works or not, because Yama could revive here, and then a Bawaku just revive. Well, but the problem is that you need to be able to put the Nightmare Griffin in the middle zone, which is why you need to have the Trouble Sunny pointing to it here. But you can also avoid this by just activating Trouble Sunny and then putting Leela, which does not point up, right here. And then your opponent won't have any zones, right? But it doesn't really matter here because my opponent's just going to concede when I max C anyway. Of course, on top of the rest of my end board. But I did want to point that out. That was definitely worth noting as to why my opponent was able to use Striker Dragon there. I have one last game for us to look at. Let's go into that last one. And this is going to be a going second game against Canine Vanquish Soul. I will say that one thing I have noticed about this deck, the Live Twin deck that is that I think its biggest weakness is simply going second. Of course, a lot of decks don't want to go second, but you have a much more difficult time comboing going second than a lot of other decks in this meta, because a lot of hands are going to kind of live and die by your starter, right? Like, if your normal summon Leela, like in this hand, gets stopped, well, there's not really much else we can do, right? As opposed to other more modernized engines like, you know, Canine, which has a lot of plays through various hand traps. Of course, the Izuna inherently allows for that. Speaking of Izuna, it's going to get dropped here. They're going to pretty much be able to do whatever they want at this point. While not playing into the Fulos at all, they have not given me a single draw. I'm going to Ghost Spell the Lupus here. That way it doesn't come back. Ghost Spell is one of those hand traps that, like, even though monster effects aren't super good in this meta, I still like it because it counters the Lupus trying to revive from the graveyard. But yeah, my opponent did not summon at all during their turn from the extra deck, so they didn't give me any draws here. And finding another Fulos is not really ideal. I could have fired it off, but I don't know. It's like, I don't even know for sure they're gonna, you know, extra deck summon during my turn. I'm just gonna go for Leela and hope I can make plays here. Gonna Kiss Kill Deal, dump the Leela Suite. Leela Suite F's gonna activate. They get to revive the Lupus here, because unfortunately, you know, yeah, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I definitely should have fired off the Fulos. I think a lot of the reason that I didn't when I was actually playing the game out is because I was like, oh, I don't want to trigger Lupus for no reason, thinking that I wouldn't be able to trigger it at all, but I forgot Leela Suite reviving from the graveyard will cause the Lupus to revive. So, yeah, not firing off Fulos was definitely a misplay on my part. They're going to end up making a Ripper, then activating the Holisu, revealing the Raisin as well as a Mad Love in order to summon from the deck. It's going to be amazing. A Raisin to the Monster Zone is what I meant to say, that Deal is pointing to. Raisin's going to reveal the Dark and Fire to pop my Kiss-a-Kill Deal. And then now they can activate the Caesar Valius, bouncing Holisu in order to summon. They're gonna end up not using the Valius just yet. I'm gonna use Triple Attack to take control, and then they fire off Valius. Funnily enough, I was gonna take the Caesar Valius if they didn't activate, but now I feel a little more free to take the Ripper until they activate Forced Release. And at this point, this is really brutal. Not even for the hand rip, I actually don't care about that. It's the Destroy a Card effect, right? Because that's gonna destroy the Suite. They don't even go into the Canine, you know, X. Werewolf, they just make the Hound here. But yeah, now because they popped both of my monsters instead of just one, I can't make plays. If I had even one of my Leelas, I could have linked it and the Hound into the Evil Twin Leela and then tried to set up some more plays, but yeah, nothing else I can do here. This was unfortunate because I think, really, if it weren't for the fact that my opponent's face down was the Force Release to destroy my other monster, I could have mounted a comeback here. I don't know if I would have won, necessarily, but I definitely could have done more than I ended up doing. And yeah, as mentioned, this deck does just end up being really weak trying to combo going second into an opponent's board. Alright, now that I've shown you some gameplay, let me show you the deck list. Alright, here is going to be my list for Live Twin. Basically, pretty much everything you would expect to see is in here, based on, you know, showing you the combo line in earlier games. As far as the main and extra deck go, I don't think there's really too many surprises. We're only on one copy of Leela Suite, because I only have the one. If I had a second, I would try it out, but I only think one is necessary, because it goes from your deck to the graveyard with Kiss-a-Kill Deal anyway, and you don't really want to open this card. That's why you never play 3, right? Because, I mean, yeah, it does have the in-hand effects to stop, like, hand traps and stuff, but only against the Live Twin cards, so it's kind of limited even in that scope, right? We do, however, play a full playset of 3 Kiss-a-Kill Frost, which looks a little bit weird if you're used to playing this deck before the new support, but given that Kiss-a-Kill Deal is a link one, Frost is actually full combo. If you go summon Frost, link into Deal, Deal dumps the, where is she, Suite, Suite revives, and then you can just start making plays, right? So that's why we're on a full playset of Frost, but only the one Suite. As far as our other Evil Twin and Live Twin ratios go, 2 Evil Twin Kisakeel, but only 1 of the Leela. You really only typically need 1 Leela. You could play a second if you wanted to, just in case of, like, I don't know, if you're afraid of, like, a Bestial banishing it from your graveyard or something. Cut, like, Muckraker for a second Leela, but you really only need the 1. Definitely like 2 Kisakeel, though, to be able to revive the Leela. Plus, we are playing more Kisakeel monsters in the main deck than Leela monsters, so having extra Kisakeel Evil Twins in the extra deck does end up being pretty important. But yeah, I think pretty much everything else from the extra deck got featured in the combo line, except for Little Knight, but I mean, she's Little Knight. Of course, you're going to include her in pretty much any extra deck, especially one that's doing a fair amount of link summoning already. For the off engine, there's a lot of options for a deck like this. I chose to play Perulia because it's really, really good in this meta. And Bell, even though it's like lower impact against a lot of decks, and obviously you want to be careful about how many monster hand traps you're actually using during your opponent's turn because of Canine Izuna. However, I really like the Ghost Bell in particular because you can use her effect against the Lupus to revive from the graveyard. So she's actually pretty good into the Izuna. And that's on top of already being pretty good against Draco Tail and Yummy. So very, very good hand trap in this meta. Another piece of off engine you could try to make room for is Forbidden Droplet. And to be fair, that might actually help curb the problem I was describing of like trying to play into boards going second, right? You can use Droplet, send away your opponent's board, and then summon, or not send away, but send away cards to negate your opponent's board, and then summon your, starter to go into your combo. Droplet's also not bad, like, going first, because you can set it, and if you have both Kisakeel and Leela in play, you can use Droplet, send one, and then have the other just revive. So you can kind of get some free negates in that regard. Yeah, I've definitely played Droplet in other live/Evil Twin decks in the past, and now that I'm looking at the list, I think I definitely should have made room for it. I could see cutting like a Ghost Bell and a Triple Tack or something in order to play the Droplets. Maybe even Secret Password. Secret Password, you could play literally any number from 0 to 3. It just depends how many starters you want. But I would always max out on the Sunny Snitch before playing any Secret Password, because this is going to be a lot worse into Droll and Lockbird. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to say, initially at least, about this deck. I definitely am looking forward to playing with it more, maybe trying out some other variants. I might give Live Twin Sprite another shot. I haven't played the deck in a long while, because I think there are better Live Twin and Sprite variants, but I don't know, it's been a while, and I might just try it out just for fun. But anyway, that's going to do it for now. Thank you as always for watching. But before we end off the video, let's thank our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers for their generous support in our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.